Death at Bishop's Keep, Chapter 16. The archaeologist must be something of a detective in the sense that he must extract from the site enough evidence to allow him to conclude what happened there, when it happened, and to whom. If the archaeologist is also an historian, and the best are, he weaves this information into a larger narrative which allows him to conclude why it happened. William Albert, An Introduction to Historical Archaeology. An hour later, Charles was seated in Sir Archibald Fairfax's field tent at the excavation, declining an offer of tea. "Thank you," he said, "but I just had a cup with Inspector Wainwright." "The police?" Sir Archibald exclaimed, concerned. "My dear boy, is everything quite all right?" "Oh, quite," Charles said. "I dropped off my photographs of yesterday's find." "With the police?" Sir Archibald asked, puzzled. "But I fail to see—" His face cleared. "Oh, to be sure. The dead man in the dig. I'd forgotten. We made a discovery yesterday afternoon. Another mosaic. Drove the miserable wretch straight out of my mind." "It's the miserable wretch I've come about, actually," Charles said. "I've been to the excavation after more photographs, but the place is a muddle. Yesterday's police work was altogether negligent. No attention paid to roping off the site nor maintaining proper custody of evidence." "What did you expect?" Sir Archibald asked pettishly. "Bad manners as bison police are. Brainless, tramping about, never minding where they put their boots. Almost as bad as women," he added. "Whisking along in their deuced skirts, shifty as a squadron of street sweepers." It's hardly the fault of the police, I suppose," Charles reflected. "Not much training, little education, no money for equipment or adequate staff, not held in high regard by society." "And not a thought in their heads for the preservation of history," Sir Archibald went on as if Charles hadn't even spoken. "Police or women." "I suppose you can hardly expect them to have a proper scientific attitude," Charles said, mostly to himself. "Their outlook is dictated by tradition, scarcely disposed to the progressive point of view." "Put me in mind of the way our business was done 20 years ago. Still done on most sites." Sir Archibald stood up and started to stride back and forth. "No attention to the proper documentation of artifacts, to stratigraphic records, to analysis. Does no good to dig if carelessness results in the loss of proper in situ information. Like that great oaf Schliemann, you recall, the idiot who destroyed Troy while he was digging it up. Bloody treasure hunter yanking artifacts out of the ground like turnips. Once something's dug up, it cannot be put back." He raised his hand in an imperial gesture. "Our paramount responsibility to extract every ounce of information that the ground can reveal. Without that, what's in the museum is of no more worth than bits salvaged out of a dustbin." "Just so," Charles said, hastily remembering that Sir Archibald's animosity towards Heinrich Schliemann could lead to an hours of impassioned discourse. And while Sir Archibald's remarks opened several intriguing parallels between archaeology and criminal detection, he needed to get on with his business. "I have a question for you, Sir Archibald," he said, "regarding vehicular access to the dig, specifically the cart track behind the spot where the body was found. What vehicles might be expected to use that track?" "None, sir," Archibald said firmly. "Horses are as destructive as police, worse when one considers the size of the beast. Once, when I was working at Messinier, a horse went berserk and crashed into a field tent, smashing a grand lot of urns, not to mention 2 fine young archaeologists. No, horses won't do at all. Debris is removed to spoil heaps by barrow." "I see," Charles said. "So, any hoofprints?" "Don't tell me that you found any hoofprints." "I am afraid so, along the cart track." Sir Archibald shook his head. "Patrols," he muttered. There will have to be patrols day and night, and a cordon, and—" Charles stood up. "I leave it to you, Sir Archibald," he said. "I am confident that you will take every measure in your power to protect the site from intrusion." "Oh, I shall, sir," Sir Archibald said with great fervour. "You can depend upon it." He sat down heavily once again. "Police," he muttered. "Horses." He dropped his head into his hands. "Next thing you know, it'll be women." "Excuse me, sir." Charles did not turn, but he recognized the voice from the doorway behind him. It belonged to the student archaeologist who had started the whole thing. Sir Archibald looked up. "What is it?" he asked testily. Well, speak up. Not a dead man, I hope." No," the student said. "Actually, it's a woman." Sir Archibald leaped to his feet, his face filled with horror. "A dead woman?" he cried. "Oh, no, sir," the student said hastily. "She is very much alive." Charles glanced over his shoulder. The first thing that he saw was a pair of ankle-high black boots and a dark serge-divided skirt, almost like full-cut trousers, so short as to show an inch of black stocking. Startled, his gaze travelled upwards, past slim dark jacket, white shirt, manly tie, and came to rest on the woman's face, topped by a mound of undisciplined auburn hair. It was Catherine Artley.